Welcome to the Success with Jewelry podcast, where we invite you inside our conversations about business success and marketing for jewelry designers and entrepreneurs.
We're Liz and Laryssa, jewelry marketing experts with a combined 16 years of experience in jewelry marketing and proven track records in helping jewelry brands meet their goals. When you listen to or watch this podcast, you get an intimate and exclusive peek behind the curtain of all the things you wish you could know about earning success in this industry.
Welcome to episode 67. In this episode, Liz and I are going to talk about the most important social media best practices and trends for 2024. So, how can you make the most of your social media marketing efforts this year, and which trends might be worth trying? We also want to tell you about our insider community. When you join, you'll have access to extended episodes full of tips that you can start implementing today and further resources about each topic we discuss. In the bonus content, we'll give you our totally unfiltered take on how social media marketing will evolve this year for jewelry brands. To get access to exclusive content, as well as direct access to me and Liz, sign up by visiting successwithjewelry.com. Hey, Liz, let's get into it.
Let's get into it. What a topic we've chosen to cover.
It's a big one we're unpacking today.
Definitely. I think social media over the past year, like people have gotten more and more just apathetic about posting there and showing up because it's been so frustrating.
Absolutely. I don't know anyone who's not frustrated by social media.
I know. I think that, I mean, what's really helped me is that like I'm going to show up and say the thing I need to say, whether I get 5 likes or 200 likes or 1,000 likes.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, it is like a little disappointing if you put time and effort into something and it doesn't perform the way you expected, but you have to kind of just stick to your plan.
Definitely, and kind of disconnect your emotion or your ego that you have attached to social media. I think it's especially hard though for people who have been have had success on social media. I remember it used to be so easy. I remember because
Yeah.
I was able to grow Todd Reed's Instagram with no payment, no paid ads, nothing like that, to 100,000 followers. And yeah, of course, I put effort into it and we had really great content that we were sharing, but it was not like it is these days.
Do you think you could do the same thing today?
No, 1,000% not. And I have a client who wants followers. Like that's their main goal is followers. And I cannot move the needle without paid ads. And with my own page too, sometimes people look at it and like, oh my gosh, you have so many followers. And it's like a lot of them are from just having been an early adapter to Instagram. And at this point, a lot of them have either, left or are spam or are, whatever. So my engagement's pretty low on my personal page as well.
It's tough out there.
It's tough out there. I Yeah, it's very tough out there. And the goal shouldn't necessarily be followers anymore. We'll get into in the bonus content, like, unfiltered. But what I will say before we dive in is that the goal should be engagement, even if the engagement is with only a handful of people.
Absolutely. You actually just made me think of something, my own Instagram habits. So, like, I don't really follow people anymore, not because I'm not interested, but my attitude is, what's the point? I'm not going to see this in my feed anyway.
And I think a lot of people feel that way. And I think people outside of the like business of Instagram, like people who run businesses, people who just use Instagram for pleasure, I think that there's just this like, there's so much content, so they're seeing it, they're maybe sharing it with a friend, which we don't really see in the analytics on our end, or they're sending the link to somebody via like messenger or text message, or they're just like remembering it or writing it down or saving it, and they're not necessarily liking or commenting, and they're definitely probably not commenting. I think people have gotten to just like in general this like point of apathy with Instagram. And then also I've talked to a few people who are just like, I can't go on it because the news and then like the like things to buy, like just the difference between those two things is kind of hard for your brain to be like scrolling and be like, oh, this is really pretty, and oh, this is horrifying.
Yeah. So true.
Yeah.
All
So
right. So,
let's get into this.
how can you make the most of your social media marketing efforts this year?
So the number one thing is to be more personal and authentic. And I think that there's a struggle with this because some people hear that and think, oh, well, I have to share my everyday routine and my dinner and my kids and my dog and my house and all the things. But you can really find a way to be personal without sharing all the details of your life. And it's like not having that super polished feed. It's like sharing what inspires you. It's sharing behind the scenes. All of those things will help it feel more authentic.
Yeah. Or if, yeah, with a brand, you kind of have to almost like have a persona. So, like Liz said, it's not you. You're not like showing your breakfast or whatever. Like, filter that through the lens of what you want your brand to be.
Yeah, and you can create those like clear boundaries and then it makes it really easier. That's something I did going into this year for my personal Instagram because I really like hit a stopping point in at the beginning of Q4 last year where it's like I can't anymore. I'm tired. Like I can't post on social media for myself anymore. And what really helped me going into this year because I've been pretty consistent is I created this like boundary of like I'm just going to use my Instagram for business. I'm not going to share any of my like personal life, which it's just like it's like kind of almost freeing to decide that because now I know what my goal is and I know what I'm going to share.
Yeah. That, I haven't noticed you post anything personal, Liz, and I didn't really make the connection.
Totally. It was stressing me out too much of like what aspects of that to share. And I was like, for now, I'm just going to cut it out. And maybe I'll come back to it later, or maybe I'll figure other aspects of my personal life that I want to share. But it was just getting to this point that felt stressful.
Yeah. So, another tip we want to share is don't avoid using or trying social media platforms for your business just because you personally don't want to use them or you don't enjoy using them, because at the end of the day, it's about what your audience wants to see. So, I just hear a lot of people kind of just immediately like dismissing platforms, especially Facebook. Okay. Someone just like wrote me an email the other day. They listened to my podcast. They're like, hey, we cater to boomers and we don't know what to do with social media because like nobody in our target demographic spends time on social media. And I'm like, I have some clients that are killing it on Facebook because they cater to boomers.
Yes, Facebook should not be discounted. I think it's a hard platform to grow at this point without, again, paid ads. So you'd have to like really get creative about how you're spending time there to grow your following and really lean into your personal Facebook page as well, which is not a bad thing to do. I think everyone should be not neglecting their personal Facebook audience if they have one to, share about your business, maybe not all the time, but every once in a while. I mean, you have people there who care about you and what you do. So I think that Facebook is not one to totally discount. I agree with you.
Even TikTok, I know like a lot of people, especially like elder millennials or like Gen X, are like, no, 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 we can't look at TikTok. Like that's for the kids or whatever.
I would say that we're elder millennials, right, Laryssa?
Yeah, I think so.
We are. We both are. So I'm opposed to TikTok personally. I just am overwhelmed by it and the like constant amount of content. But when I do get into it, I'm very sucked in. And some of the TikTokers that I've followed or watched before, I'm like, I feel like I know you. And there's
Mhm.
some really good TikTok content going on in the jewelry industry. Jewels with Jewels, Jewel Boxing, and Okay Fine are three really great Instagram accounts that are talking about jewelry, which I think is really fun. But what I hear from a lot of designers is like, oh, TikTok's the answer. And it's
No.
some of these like TikTokers who have found success are posting like 3 to 5 times a day. And not everyone has the bandwidth to create that type of content and show up there. But it is something to like look into depending on your audience.
Yes, nothing is the answer, but also nothing is like worthless or like totally not worth considering for you. So really think through this strategically and don't forget Pinterest. I feel like everyone just forgets about Pinterest.
There was a lot of chatter about Pinterest last year, at some point last year. I don't remember when, but I feel like everyone was talking about it. And a lot of people have circled back to trying it again, I feel like. If you're doing engagement or bridal, you should definitely be on Pinterest, I think. And I think that there's a lot of opportunity there.
Yeah, or more like fashion forward stuff because people look on there for like styling advice.
Right. And with both Pinterest and TikTok and Facebook and Instagram, like there's different ways to use all of them. I'd say especially Pinterest, and especially like the type of content you're putting out on TikTok. Those two I'd learn. I'd join the platform and pay attention to what other brands are doing and what other people are doing and what type of content is performing really well, and think about that. Like, is that something you want to be creating? Do you feel like your audience is there? So you don't have to just like jump in and hear this podcast and like sign up for everything. Like, just do a little bit of research first.
Yeah, absolutely. So, another tip I have for this year is to seek out brand collaborations because, especially like as Liz said, if you're having trouble growing a following or getting more engagement, doing a cross promotion with a brand that shares your target audience, I think that's one of the best ways to make an impact, especially on Instagram.
Definitely. That's the number one way that brands have grown. The brands I work with, and then also my own page has grown in the past year, is posting things that tag other people, that are shareable by other people, that like involve collaboration. All of that leads to a growth in following in a really organic way.
Yes. And also just good business relationships for things beyond social media.
Yeah, and also, we've talked about this before. We talked about this a lot, but leaning into your niche and honing in on your brand voice, the more you get specific and the more you lean into talking to your current audience, people who care about what you're doing, the more likely you are to grow, because those followers and fans of yours are going to engage with that content because it will feel like you're talking specifically to them, and the Instagram algorithm or the social media algorithm will see that people are liking that and they'll show it to more people.
Absolutely. Another thing, I feel like too many people have ignored their social media profiles, like the bio, the way the links are structured, even to just do a quick glance at like how it all looks together, the profile picture. That's something to kind of easily ignore for a very long time. So take a few moments to just audit that for yourself.
Yeah, that's a great point. And make sure all of your links are accurate and there's an easy way to get to your website.
Yes. So my take, Liz, and I'm interested to hear your take, is that hashtags are still relevant, but I know that that's like a controversial topic in social media marketing.
Controversial. I've never liked hashtags. I've always kind of been anti hashtags.
Uh-oh.
No, no, no. Just, it's exhausting, but they are still relevant. You are right, Laryssa. And you can really see if the hashtags you're using are working when you look at your analytics, or your insights, on a post by post basis. You can see how many people found your post from hashtags. So it won't show you exactly which hashtag led people to your post if you've used multiple, but it will show if your hashtags are working or not. I think with hashtags, I wouldn't do like a massive block of them. I would choose maybe 10, and you could have ones that you use for your brand in a big list and kind of like rotate them out. But I also love hashtagging your brand name, because then somebody could click on that and see all of the posts you did. And it's just an easy way to search, but they are less relevant than they used to be. Like, it used to be like you had to use hashtags. Now, because of how Instagram creates the explore pages, like they can read the text and pull from that. So it's just a little bit less relevant to use hashtags. So you don't have to, but they
Yeah.
do work.
Yes, that's a great point. So another tip is using, especially for Instagram, taking advantage of all the surfaces. So all the like tools that Instagram has, or the whatever you want to call it, stories,
All the
reels,
things.
carousels, single image posts, all the things.
And don't just switch all the way over to Reels. Like I saw a lot of people do that. I mean, maybe this was over a year ago when everybody kind of switched over to Reels, but we don't want to just do Reels. Posts, carousel post, static images are still really important. And I've actually, the top posts for my clients in this past year have been the static post or the carousels and not necessarily the Reels. So I think having a nice mix of them is great. And then something that a lot of designers kind of neglect is stories. And that is such an important part of the platform because that is, it's so easy for your client to message you right there. And that message, even if it's about something that doesn't have to do with jewelry, and your response leads to like a building of trust. So having, that opportunity to have that one-on-one interaction is really important. And some people really only spend their time in stories. So you want to hit people in both places. I would say you want them in alignment. So whatever is happening in your feed post, you want to be telling a similar story in your stories.
I've become a person that only looks at stories.
I do both, but I am more excited to see stories. I think there's an urgency there because they're only up for 24 hours and it feels like you're getting like a more inside look at what's happening. And also this is, I think, why TikTok really works to like suck you into somebody's world is it takes up the full screen.
Mhm.
So you feel like you've like entered somebody else's universe.
Yeah, oh, yeah, that's a really great point, though, just the format of the story. Yeah. So, posting frequency. First, let me ask you, Liz, is there like a magic number?
No, 1,000% not. No magic number. I'd say at this point too, it doesn't matter what time you're posting. So we used to be really conscious of like posting times, and I still have some preferences. Like I tend to like to post earlier in the morning Eastern time because then it kind of hits people right when they're opening their app for the first time. But posts are sticking around longer. So I'd say like 24 to 48 hours. So it's not even as important to post every day anymore, in my opinion. And I think that it's so important for designers to just be consistent. So if you can only show up on social media once a week, but you stay consistent in showing up once a week, then that's amazing.
Yeah, you just have to figure out what works for you.
Totally. And I like this from Laryssa. Get into the habit of scheduling as much content as possible. And I completely agree. I schedule in a way that's more manual. So I do it in like a Google Doc and then I post. And I've always just done this. I've not used a scheduling app, but planning your content in advance will not only ensure that you're telling a more consistent story, but also that you're showing up regularly for your audience. And that is a really just simple way to build trust.
Absolutely. And reporting. We need everyone to get in the habit of reporting at least monthly.
Yes, 1,000%. And as much as I mentioned earlier with hashtags, looking at the insights of post by post, you don't want to get hung up on the post by post analytics. It really, what matters more is it as a whole. So looking at it monthly is much more healthy than obsessing over why one post only got 10 likes.
Definitely. So, looking at some social media trends for the coming year, you probably hear a lot, especially if you like pay attention to like social media news. What's actually worth trying?
Yeah, building more real personal relationships, especially in your direct messages. I have said this before, but last year, the head of Instagram said the largest, fastest growing portion of the platform was actually direct messages. So people are spending time messaging each other, and that one-on-one interaction is super important. So that's something to focus on.
Yes. Also, when we were talking about hashtags just a few minutes ago, Liz was talking about how like search Instagram can like know keywords and stuff that are in your posts. And so this concept of SEO is becoming more important on Instagram. And that basically just means making sure your captions have words, phrases that are relevant to what you're posting.
And I mean, just video, so much video. Do the
Yeah.
video. We've talked about this before. We talked about this last week, I think, but video is important. Again, not switching all the way over to just posting video, but trying a live video could be a really good idea. Longer form video is in also. So I think it's a great idea if you're launching a collection, or even if you have like a sale, like going on live or doing a longer form video where you show the pieces that you're launching, or show some of the pieces, or show pieces in the sale, but showing your face and talking on video is really great. I also think that video that's like behind the scenes and process video is really popular too.
I just learned like maybe 2 months ago that you can post reels that are more than 90 seconds, and it blew my mind.
Yeah, the time limits on it has, like, all of it has increased. I think you can go live for like 4 hours. Maybe that's how it's always been, but yeah, you can be on video for a long time.
Yeah, and long form content, long form video is becoming more appreciated. So don't feel like you just have to make like a 5-second video.
Those used to be what you would do to get the views, to get
I
the
know.
viral viralness of a video.
I
You do like
see I
that
see
2 second
them a
thing.
lot when I'm like scrolling on the Reels tab in Instagram, and I'm like, what did I just look at? Like sometimes I'm like, I need more context. Like, what is this?
What is
Okay.
happening? Definitely. And I think more context in general. I'm thinking about the content I used to post in the early days of Instagram, which you can scroll back in my feed and like go all the way to the beginning where I like posted a coffee cup as like with the weird filter. I think was my first post. But everything needs more context. And that doesn't mean again like sharing all of the details of your personal life, but like what inspired it? What process are you showing us? Why are you showing us these earrings? Why do we
Mhm.
care? Why should we care?
It's so true. Why should we care?
Oh,
One thing I want to see, maybe this is selfish, but like I want people to be more playful and entertaining and less serious.
Yes, definitely. I mean, it depends on your brand. I work with a lot of high-end luxury brands, and you can only go so far. And some of these clients have pushed me to go further than I think is appropriate for their brand. Um, but I think for a lot of our listeners, being a little bit more playful and entertaining could be really fun. Like, I think that it's really fun to follow like Danielle from Gem Gossip on
Mhm.
TikTok because that's where she posts like her funniest content. And it's just a little bit different than what she posts on her Instagram page. And I think it's a really good use and something to look at to see the difference between Instagram and TikTok.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a great recommendation. And you mentioned live video. I would love to see more people doing like a live trunk show or just live showing products to their customers.
I agree. How are you planning to approach social media marketing this year? Let us know. Visit successwithjewelry.com. We'd love to know what you're thinking, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have. Thanks for listening.